So this week in the Sacred Gathering, we're going to do one more kind of Lectio Divina meditative style in which we are thinking through kind of our rhythms as a community, the ways we've structured our community, trying to kind of live out what it is we think God is inviting us into. Of course, in that drawing, the innermost circle is worship, getting to know God, getting to enjoy God, bowing down to God's ways over our own ways, and learning to be more like God and to value the sorts of things. We think that that is then expressed in service to others and taking care of them and being helpful and giving them our time and giving them value, and in simply hospitality, inviting them into our homes, inviting them into our lives, sharing meals together. As that worship continues to flow out into kind of its most public phase, we have the outer circles, which we call neighborhood development and community organizing. And again, the reminder is this kind of ebb and flow that everything comes back to worship and God's presence, and then that's expressed outward into, like I said, the serving and the hospitality, and then this comes out into kind of our more public lives, in which we're in our neighborhoods, our places of worship, in which we're spending intentional time with people who are like us. And the invitation is always kind of back in. We hope that as we meet people out in our neighborhoods, going about our normal lives, that we can grow into intimacy, whether it's serving them or being served by them, having hospitality, our lives and theirs become more intertwined, and just pondering maybe, just maybe, that will be the way in which God invites them again into his presence and places of worship, and the flow goes back out, and we start all over again. So, this week in the Sacred Gathering, as we have the last couple, we're just going to kind of meditate on our definitions for that outer ring, look at some important scripture that has kind of defined the way we think about those things, and then just ponder, what does this actually mean for us to be intentional, to be on mission with God out in public spaces in our lives. So let me start by reading the definition of kind of what we're trying to do in neighborhood development and community organizing. The outer ring of neighborhood development and community organizing are not so much core values as expressions the kingdom way of being in our context of Colorado Springs. God created us with a need for life with others, but we often mistake community for something we can choose to opt in and out of as we feel like or don't. That's not kingdom community, it's consumerism. We create spaces, events, so people can experience actual community, blessing them as beloved to God and giving them an invitation deeper into God's kingdom. Neighborhood development is about intentional awareness of who's around us geographically. Community organizing is about using our uniqueness and interests to seek out and take responsibility for the spiritual growth of our people, those we can naturally relate to. And so, two very important scriptures that just relate to this kind of outer ring, this idea of being on mission, come from Luke chapter 15, verses 1 through 10. All the tax collectors and sinners were gathering around Jesus to listen to him. The Pharisees and legal experts were grumbling, saying, "This man welcomes sinners and eats with them." Jesus told them this parable. "Suppose someone among you had 100 sheep and lost one of them. Wouldn't he leave the other 99 in its pasture and search for the lost one until he finds it? And when he finds it, he's thrilled and places it on his shoulders. When he arrives home, he calls together his friends and neighbors, saying to them, 'Celebrate with me because I found my lost sheep.' In the same way, I tell you, there will be more joy in heaven over one sinner who changes both heart and life than over 99 righteous persons who have no need to change their hearts and lives. Or what woman, if she owns 10 silver coins and loses one of them, won't light a lamp and sweep the house, searching her home carefully until she finds it? And when she finds it, she calls together her friends and neighbors, saying, 'Celebrate with me, because I found my lost coin.' In the same way, I tell you, joy breaks out in the presence of God's angels over one sinner who changes both heart and life." And in a similar vein, we are going to read John 1. "The Word was first. The Word was present to God. God present to the Word. The Word was God, in readiness for God from day one. Everything was created through him. Nothing, not one thing, ever came into being without him. What came into existence was life, and the life was light to live by. The life light blazed out of the darkness, and the darkness couldn't put it out. The life light was the real thing. Every person entering life, he brings into light. He was in the world was there through him, and yet the world didn't even notice. He came to his own people, but they didn't want him. But whoever did want him, who believed he was who he claimed, and would do as he said, God made to be their true selves, their child of God selves. These are the God begotten, not flesh begotten, not blood begotten, not sex begotten. The Word became flesh and blood and moved into the neighborhood. We saw the glory with our own eyes, the one-of-a-kind glory, like Father, like Son, generous, inside and out, true, from start to finish. So we'll ask ourselves the question, what words or phrases shimmer for you? And what do you think God might be saying for you out of those? Why is it important to intentionally seek out neighbors and our people for the kingdom? How is this different than befriending them for the sake of conversion, the old bait and switch? Who are some of your people that come to mind in this discussion? What does it look like for you to bless them as beloved to God? What does it look like for you to seek out and take responsibility for their spiritual growth? How might organizing and or hospitality help you intentionally seek these folks out? So I'm looking forward to our discussion on mission, on our public selves, as we continue to try to bless the world in some of the ways that we have been blessed.